Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our holiday/summer episodes with people. So no coding today. Today we have Juhani and Hal, or Hal and Juhani. I mean, there was like an agreement that so Hal first, Juhani after. And today we are going to talk about. Well, there is also Sebastiano. Ciao, Sebastiano.
Ciao.
Today we are going to talk about Android Auto tab, because actually there is like the auto thing and the automotive thing that I really don't know any. So it's Android Auto tab, and the auto completion is gonna pick it up. So welcome.
Thank you.
And so, Juhani and Al, just to give some background to everyone, you have recently formed a company that deals specifically with Android and automotive, and that's the reason why we got the experts.
For some definition of experts, yeah.
So, speaking of experts, given you're supposed to know this, what is the difference between Android Auto and Android for Automotive OS, or whatever the name is?
More people have heard of Android Auto, but most people think they're the same thing. But yeah, it's a world of confusion. There we go.
I mean, that's the whole thing of the episode. I don't know, so I need you to explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay. So you've got this thing called a TV screen, and pictures come up on it.
Yeah.
But it's Android Auto should have really been called Android Projected Mode, because Android Auto is about taking what's on your phone and putting it on the screen in your car. Android Automotive OS is about actually running Android on the head unit in your car. So the difference is, one is a library that goes to your phone. Hey, do everything for me. Tell me what I should be showing the driver, and everything's good. And the other one's more a case of, I don't need the phone. I can run Google Maps natively in the car. I can do all this stuff that the phone usually does, but I can also do the projected mode thing if you want me to.
Okay, so essentially, like when we're talking about projected mode, it's not mirroring the screen of the phone, but it's the phone that is essentially sending a video stream to the car display, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the logic and all the code is running on the phone, and your car just becomes a dumb projector.
Yeah. You can think about when you're using Android Auto, the projected mode, your car is like a second screen for your phone. It might be wired. You might have to plug in the USB in the old systems. Nowadays, it's also wireless. I think also a Bluetooth or something else. So that's basically the difference. Also, the Auto is fairly strictly controlled by Google. It's part of the Google ecosystem directly. You can't really use Auto if you're not using Google Play services. You have to have the Android Auto app on your phone, and that is the thing that is actually sending things over. And then you can have other apps that kind of hook into the Google Auto ecosystem. We can talk about later.
And the Automotive OS one is where the fun happens. It's where you can install apps. You can basically do whatever you want. And there are lots of things that you get in Android Automotive OS that you don't get in Android Auto. Like, you get told about how fast your car's charging, how much you should be panicking that you've got range anxiety, that your EV's about to run out of battery halfway down the motorway, those kind of things. So there's a lot more integration with the car in Automotive OS rather than just being a second screen.
So, and the Automotive OS is where the buzz is now, like Al said, that where the fun is really. The Auto is very kind of dummy. So the Auto counterpart on Apple world is CarPlay. They are almost one-to-one same. The only difference is that on Google world, you can run Auto on your phone, or now they're migrating to assistant driving mode, which is a third way to run car things. That's stuff that runs in your phone. You mount your phone on your dash, and then you use the assistant driving mode or auto directly on your phone. You can't do that on iPhone. But an iPhone, when you plug it to the same system, it will use projection to do CarPlay, which is exactly the same thing technically. Some people think it looks a bit better.
It certainly looks a bit better than getting a huge tablet and sellotaping it to your car.
Is that
Yeah,
why you ported Android Automotive OS to a tablet?
Porting it to a tablet made it cheaper to test than running a car.
Yeah, but you can write off cars as
buy-
a company expense, right?
yeah.
We're a startup. It's like, you've heard of ramen startups. We are small EV startups. It's like we can't stretch out for a Porsche Taycan for every employee and go, welcome to the company. Some people get laptops, you got a Taycan. Good on you.
Did I forget to tell you, Al? Because we spent the budget on my Taycan. We did this this thing.
Yeah.
This is super cool. It's actually, like I said, with the Automotive OS is interesting, and that's gaining a lot of momentum in the industry in general. We have multiple car manufacturers say they go with Google and Android Automotive OS, which is a little bit different than going with the AOSP version without Google. There's quite a few that are going without that as well. So Volkswagen announced this week, for example, that all of the Volkswagen concern cars are going to run Android Automotive OS, but no Google. That means they won't have Play Store. They're going to have Android in it. They're going to build it themselves. They will not be Google Play services, or in automotive, it's called Google Automotive Services GAS. It's not there. So they have to build replacement themselves, so they won't be Google Maps and so on.
So they'll use something like, I don't know, Here Maps or...
the German
whatever.
car manufacturers own Here jointly. A lot of them use that one.
Okay.
A lot of them going to go with things like Mapbox or just build their own. It's going to be a very interesting field. It's going to be very different from what the phones are. In the cars, I think there's a real chance of Google less Android becoming relevant on phones. Let's see what Huawei can do. It's not looking very good. But on cars, I think it's a different playground. Firstly, because you don't really need many apps in a car. You need your music player and maps, and that's it. You're not going to install your fitness apps and stuff like that there ever, right? So
wait, what? That's not the major use case.
Step
doing
counter
push-ups in your car.
Congratulations, you've run 200 kilometers in the space of 4 hours.
There you go.
But
I think
you know
that's the
about
kind of
not having. Sorry, please.
No,
I
I'm
was
done.
actually thinking about not having Google on board, because it's like and I have a bit of
They
experience.
spy on
I
you.
actually. Yeah, well, also that tinfoil hat kind of thing. But I played in the past with phones that they weren't certified, so they didn't ship with the Google Play Store, and we were rooting and side loading the shit out of them because Android. So it opens a lot of opportunities for like hacking with your car. That's a new toy for nerds gonna be nerds, right? So it also fascinates me on a certain level. But
I think it's going to be interesting to see which cars are rootable. That's a real question. It sounds funny, but this is going to be a real question. None of the manufacturers are going to let you do that. But I think they will find ways.
It's going to involve pushing in both headlights while you turn the ignition on, so it's going to be nobody who does it.
Yeah.
Konami code kind of thing, you just.
But jokes aside, I think that boils down to which manufacturers will actually update the OS, because you're gonna be able to root whatever. As soon as they stop updating things, there's gonna be bugs, there's gonna be security issues, and you're gonna be able to root them. If it's Android, maybe some classes of vulnerabilities are not gonna be there, but I can imagine there will be plenty of ways.
Yeah. It's a real thing,
Yeah, this is kind of one of the reasons why the stuff we've done so far with the Galaxy Tab image and the emulator and things like that, we're going to be pushing to the Lineage project, who do hardware support for loads of devices that manufacturers have long forgotten about. And that's an opportunity for the future. But it's kind of one of those things where the tablet gives us a chance to see what all those interesting use cases are. Without Android Automotive in the car, without people sending stuff to it, we have no idea of what people are going to be using these tablets for, what they're going to try and do in cars and all this kind of stuff. And so by having that tablet, we can give people apps and see whether they like using them, whether they don't like using them, and all this kind of stuff, which means that we get feedback on what apps we should be developing, as well as being able to say to manufacturers, hey, look, you want to test out your fitness app that will give you 200 kilometers in 4 hours? Here's a tablet. Do you use the testing? And we are Systematic is part of the Snap family as well. They're involved in a lot of iteration on design and user testing. Take the tablet, take the app, run people around for a few hours with it, see how they interact with it. So a lot of that work was about giving code to Lineage so we can support devices in the future, but as well making it easy for people to actually get into Android Automotive OS, because at the end of the day, I think it's something that everyone can benefit from, and there's certainly enough work for more than us to be doing useful things.
And personally, I'm super excited about the tablet thing for partially reasons Al said. The use context in a car is very, very different from a phone. So you can't really see how good your app is if you're not driving around with it. You just cannot, right? It's such a different thing to do in general. This allows us to really go in all in and trying and testing, user testing.
I mean, I did a quick map implementation because the AOSP version of Android Automotive OS comes up with a big green box that just says, please install a map provider. So the guys, it's like, yeah, that's not a lot of use. So my great thanks to the guys who wrote OS Android that takes OpenStreetMap maps and displays them. I used that. I used it fetching directly from the OpenStreetMap servers, and I went into my car and I had a SIM in it that has really poor reception where I was, and I sat in my car looking at a blank screen for a while. And then you have to think about pre-downloading stuff and all these kind of things that most folk are just like, yeah, if you got a phone, you've got connectivity, you'll be all right if you can't get the information. In a car, if you go into a bad signal area for like 20 kilometers and you get no maps, yeah, it's going to be a real problem.
Ciao.
Or even if you
it's going to be one
travel...
of those episodes, in the wilderness, can kind of survive alone in the wild.
Yeah, people want to stream code with the Italians in the wilderness. They don't want your app trying to pull it all over the net.
We don't recommend doing that while driving, but
also while drinking, because it may be, don't do it.
I mean, if they're drinking but not driving, that's fine.
That's also true. True. But now that you point out the whole tablet situation, I want to put the thing on the table right away, because now that I understand, first of all, that why my Samsung, that I understand that the auto projection thing runs on the phone. So now I know why my Samsung becomes like a supernova every time I plug the Android thing. Yeah, at some point it just disconnects because the battery is so hot that it goes to, protection kind of thing. So no bueno. So that's okay. Now I understand why. But the part that I'm still missing, probably because I never had a real experience with the automotive one. So I bought one of those head units that you can just install in your car. So my Subaru had the old, that was the old Subaru thing. I get the thing out, AliExpress sold the things, they ship me this thing that just fits perfectly in my car, but it doesn't look like the one that you are describing, that connects to the car, does fancy things. It looks basically like a tablet running Android with a skin.
That's exactly what it is.
But then it has a few apps that are they look legit, Google Maps, but then the Google Maps is actually like the one on the phone. So if I use the Google Map on the thing, it looks weird because it doesn't. It's not like a automotive UI. It's just like a tablet.
It's very easy to think about. It's the same way as you would put Android into a TV. It's Android TV, still Android, but it just runs into this, what they say, 11-feet mode. So it's meant to be used from a longer distance. So they added a scaling factor to the TV, so everything looks bigger. What you have in your car in that system is literally Android AOSP that is meant for tablets and meant for phones, that is running on this thing that doesn't have these fudge factors added into it. Android Automotive OS is very similar branch of Android than an Android TV. It's meant to be run into the system. It's still based on AOSP. It's everything that is Android is there, but then there's some things on top of it that makes it more usable in cars, meaning the system user interface is different. The system UI, the system bar has different buttons by default. It's bigger. Everything is bigger. It's meant to be used on distance. That's what the difference is. What you're describing is literally a tablet in your car. What we built, we've taken the Android Automotive AOSP and put that on a tablet. That's why it looks a bit different.
And
is it like a particular tablet, or it's like a Samsung or tablet, or is it like a specific piece of hardware that nobody can buy? Or
we put it on the Samsung Galaxy Tab S5e because it was cheaper than building something from scratch, and it's the only bit of hardware we've done. But what we're doing with the Lineage guys is we want to open up support to more platforms. So I was able to pick up an S5e for 230 quid off of Amazon, nice and cheap, which is great. But if someone wants to use a Tab 7 Fanboy edition with a 12-inch super 4K screen and all of that, hopefully what we do with the Lineage guys will mean that you can use that for testing your Android Automotive OS stuff if you want. And your AliExpress head unit, they're not the only people to be doing what you're talking about. We've talked to one company who made us aware that one of the big auto manufacturers was first to install Android in their cars by doing exactly the same thing, but spending a lot more money on the customization of the launcher and the apps and having a custom mapping system, which was from a vendor that they own part of the company.
And these are cars that are currently in market in America right now. Yeah. So it's not some small brand somewhere, but I think we leave it to that.
I think I've seen someone tweeting that they were going into the menus of their rental car and they found Android licenses and were like, aha.
Yeah.
But then there's other interesting parts. What is this? If I don't know if you guys have in the UK or in Italy this company called Share Now, which is the Mercedes and BMW sharing thing. For a long period of time, the system that they replaced the in-car system with is Android. It was Android for a long time. The Share Now, what's it called before the Share Now? It was called something else. Drive Now.
Drive Now, and then when they.
Yeah, already.
But cool. I think a very, very big and important difference between what Ivan bought from AliExpress and what car manufacturers are doing and Drive Now did is that what the car manufacturers are doing, what Google is doing as well with Automotive OS, is that those are street legal. They are actually adhering to safety standards and procedures, and there's rules. I know there's a lot of rules and a lot of red tape for very good reasons. I'm quite sure even your Subaru is not street legal with that thing in.
No. But I mean, you have to imagine that basically, as far as I understood, it's the equivalent of like a display. It's like if I just put my phone, on the vent, it's not connected in any way to the car. I don't even have, it's not that it's like a OBD2 interface of some sort. It's just powered by the car.
Yeah, but the UI itself has requirements, and I think that's like in Android Auto. I don't think you can customize anything or at all if you integrate with it. I don't
That's
know
exactly
what's the
true, yeah.
situation.
So this is an interesting point, and I think we want to make this clear because there's a lot of discussion.
Please don't read me out.
I don't know anything about legal side of things, so I don't know if that's legal or not. But it's very sure that if somebody would be driving with Google system on and that would cause a crash, Google would be in trouble. So they avoid that very thing. That's why rollout to everything on Auto and Automotive OS, the rollout of third-party applications have been extremely slow. When Auto launched years and years ago, there was no third-party applications, and the first ones that came in were media applications. And media applications still are in both systems if you distribute them via Google Play Store. The only thing you can do is fill a template. You can't customize the user interface. You provide the media streams to the front end, and the front end will render it correctly and play your streams the way you want. You can only customize one screen, and that's the login screen. That's the only customizable screen in your template, and that's in the media applications. They then on Auto, the project that they expanded it into things like messaging applications, also very templated. You can't customize anything. You can now have charging and navigation applications. They also fully templated. We're just working with one of our customers to put a charging application into cars, and you can't do anything. What you do in the first screen of the thing, it will show a map, and it will ask you to provide 6 nearest charging stations, and it will show those. And you can change that. If you want to show 7, you're screwed. You can't do that. On one hand, it's quite easy to build those things, and you as an app developer don't have to worry about driver safety or anything like that, because you are literally just providing a stream of information, and then Google is taking responsibility of making sure it's a safe way to do things like videos. All of those things are disabled when you move. You can't watch those things and so on. The same approach is taken on the Automotive OS and the embedded one. If you go with Google and Google Play Services and Google Play Store, you can only deploy those applications to the Play Store. Currently, they support only media applications, but they promised in a blog post a month ago that the rest are coming. So it looks like from app developer point of view, if you want to be in cars, the effort to put your app into Auto, the projected mode now, will all be same as putting it into the embedded ones when these cars become more popular. So it's probably going to be a manifest file change, and then it's going to be in the embedded one. No code change needed. That's my guess.
And it's going to be interesting to see the elephant entering the room, which is Amazon. They, at the moment, haven't made a lot of noise about what their front seat car strategy is going to be. I mean, their rear seat strategy is pretty much a Fire TV hooked up to a monitor embedded in a headrest. But the front seat strategy with the App Store and things like streaming music and all that kind of stuff in the car, it'll be interesting to see the route that Amazon goes. They may be a little more relaxed with things. And if they are running Fire TV OS or Fire OS in the front of the car, you may find that they allow a lot more freedom because they haven't got a mapping solution they want to push. They haven't got all these things that they're so invested in.
I don't see myself reading on my
but maybe you're going to be listening to Audible.
Always said something that
But that's an interesting use case now. You need to, if you look at the automotive industry, the electric car transition is happening whether you like it or not. It's very clear we're going there. These create an interesting amount of use cases that surround the car differently than petrol-powered cars. Charging takes 15 minutes. You have to do something. If you wait that, you have to do something there. That's why Polestar, for example, put games in the car now. I haven't tried it yet, but you can have games. Tesla has been big on games on cars. I'd not be surprised if Stadia comes to cars and it's Automotive OS. That would be fun. I don't know when it's going to be there, but it wouldn't be a surprise because you think about the usage of your car slightly different. On a long distance trip, you might end up being stuck in a car for 20 minutes of nothing to do. So Polestar, for example, has published a video player where they pull BBC and other TV channels in there. When you start driving, it just keeps playing the audio, but the video stops. those things. So in the ecosystem, the car manufacturer can bypass Google's requirements. So this media player or app called a Better Route Planner that was launched on Polestar, which is a charging planning application, a fairly complex application, doesn't fit the templates at all. It was released on Polestar under Polestar Google Play account. So it's not released by the app developers account. I have no information about this, but I suspect there's a deal where Google had told Polestar that, okay, you put whatever you want in your car, but it's your problem if things go bad. So Polestar is publishing and republishing applications, obviously with the permission of the original developer, but putting them in the store, bypassing the Google requirement. So if you want to put something in a car right now that doesn't fit to the template, you need to talk to the car manufacturer, not to Google. You go to GM or Polestar or Volvo, and you say, hey, do you want to have these things in there? Interestingly, Volvo just announced that they're going to put this app called Easy Charging or something like that, which is also not templated that Polestar has had for a long time. They now republish the same thing again on Volvo account that's already published on Polestar, that was already published in another developer account. So this is bypassing the Google's demands or requirement for the in-car safety.
Sounds like a lot of fun for the developers that have to maintain those listings.
Well, I suspect there's also a little bit cash involved in this one. So it might be compensated quite nicely. But this is clearly a temporary situation. So this is a way to speed up the transition for specific car manufacturers who are not happy with just having media application store. If you go to Polestar and you scroll the all apps, 2 swipes and you're done. I think like 35 is all apps. And there's radio stations because there's nothing else than media available. So I think this is the car manufacturers really kind of jumping in and reacting into, hey, we need to have a little bit more than just these apps.
And something app developers will probably need to think about as well is monetization, how they get paid for doing this stuff, especially outside of like the Google store. If you're in a car that hasn't got Play services and say it's got something like Amazon, do developers think that they're really going to make money by popping up a notification saying, hey, we've noticed that you're only charging at 50 kilowatts and you're on a 100 kilowatt charger and your car will take a 100 kilowatt charger. Would you like to buy one of these many cables from Amazon that will provide you with faster charging and getting a cut from that? It's something that folks are going to need to think about, because making apps for free is great, but a lot of these things that are useful in cars are going to need servers to power the back ends for them, and just generally keeping data up to date costs. So making money is something that is going to be a different proposition.
And you can't run ads because there's no, what's the value proposition of showing an ad when someone is not looking at the screen because they're not in the car? Because that's the only time you can do it, because it's the only time you can legally require the attention of the driver, essentially, is when they're not driving, right?
The business case, in my opinion, for foreseeable future for app developers in cars is that they strengthen their offering compared to competition to people in car. You think about an audio service. If an audio service I'm using didn't have an embedded app for Android Automotive OS, I wouldn't use it. I pay for it anyways, but I would jump to a competition if I couldn't use it in my car. So I think that's going to be pretty much the use case, that a lot of devs are going to be forced into building an app for free because their competition is going to do it for themselves as well. But on the other hand, you can increase the engagement of if you have a podcast application, you want people to be listening to podcasts with your podcast player in cars when they're sitting there, right? And like I said, the template stuff, if you're an Android developer, if you know the templates, if you know all of those things, you might be able to implement in one day. That's the effort needed if you already have a player.
And that kind of... Sorry, Al, go ahead.
And Juhani's kind of touched on where we see things going, in that we don't think developers should be thinking about just car use cases. What we see as kind of the 3, 5, 10 years is what happens in your car is just an extension of what you're already doing on your phone and your tablet and things like that. So it should be a smooth transition into the car rather than being hey, hey, I'm in my car now, I need another app to do a different thing, even though I was doing a similar thing back on the phone. Sorry, Seb, I interrupted
No
you.
worries. I just wanted to ask what is maybe the most important and also the last question today, which is, okay, so we've talked a lot about Android Auto, we talked about Automotive OS, we've talked about business cases, monetization, what you can and cannot do. As a developer that is watching this and are thinking, oh, maybe my product could use a car version, like a car companion. How, like, what are the next steps, and what can they expect as well in terms of hardware in the case of Automotive OS? Because like cars have a much longer time span than phones. And which is kind of the same problem that you would have on Android TV, I guess. But I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
You're right. The cars are going to be long, but on the other hand, you don't have to worry about things like battery life or something like that. And the cars are going to be launching with a little bit more powerful things because the space is not a problem. You don't have to jam everything into a small thing. I don't pretend to know details of hardware distribution and the business on that side, but also worth remembering that the infotainment system is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
That's just a very small part of the car system. Car system is way bigger. There's a lot of things going on beyond that one. At the moment, if I was a developer, I would look at two things in mind. Android's auto projected mode is definitely worth looking at. There's going to be similar things coming from different entities than Google as well. They're all going to be very similar template based. That's a very quick win to get into cars. But I think that we need to be careful not locking ourselves into Google ecosystems. The signs are already out there that in car market there's going to be way more non-Google cars than there's non-Google phones. So thinking about locking yourself into Google services, Google Automotive services, get the benefit from them. I think they're fantastic. As a developer, I love them. But think about how do you switch Google Maps out, for example. If your app relies on Google Maps, it will not run on Volkswagen concern cars. And Volkswagen is still the biggest car manufacturer in the world, right? So we talk about Porsches, Bentleys, Audis, Volkswagen, Seats, and all of those cars, and Skodas, right? And you lose all of those cars if you lock into Google, because they will not have Google Play Store. At least they haven't announced that they will. But it's unlikely that they will. And there's going to be others. So thinking about where you head with your companion, going with the auto, that will enable you to be in the automotive, very small changes if you are in the Google's ecosystem. But think about your application. What is going to be in another environment? What is it runs without Google Map? What is it runs without Google Play services? And what is going to be? So keep your eyes open on in a couple of years when the market will be flooded with non-Google cars.
And the hardware issue already exists. The Polestar is based on an Intel chipset running Android Automotive. I can't remember the last time I saw a phone or tablet with an Intel chipset that was running Android.
5 years ago?
So, yeah. And this is the thing with automotive. There's long time spans. It's 3 to 5 years. So hardware you're seeing now may not be in cars until 2023, 2025 and beyond. So don't go to the cutting edge and rely on the performance of a high-end phone or a high-end tablet being in the car. It's a better idea to buy something that is 3-5 years old, look at it, get familiar with how fast it runs, and try and get your app performance decent on that level of phone, rather than having super fantastic performance on a flagship phone, and then when people try it in their car, it just crawls, and swiping between different pages is just a horrible experience. But in terms of ecosystems, we're probably going to be looking at 3 to 5 main ones in cars. That's going to be probably Google, probably Amazon. Volkswagen are going to go their own route because everyone has to try that once, and there'll probably be a couple of other ones like Huawei are making big inroads in China, and maybe one other company that doesn't exist at the moment. So there's going to be a lot more choice. And in all honesty, if all of the developers who are unhappy about the percentage that they're charged in play fees and all this kind of thing supported app stores on cars, they'll stop us getting into the same position we've been in phones, where everyone hands over 30% when possibly that 30% isn't really justifiable.
Got it. That was a very exhaustive answer. Thank you both. And I would say thank you very much for being with us today. I have certainly learned a lot more about the automotive situation than I already knew. I don't know about you, Ivan. Maybe take.
Well, now I know everything. I know everything. I need to be careful with my car. That's the hint. But now I see the reason behind the $200 Samsung tablet. You know, that's the, you know, everything that just comes around. I understand. That's, you know, I learned a lot. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for the opportunity to chat. It's been great.
Always,
Thanks, guys.
always happy to see you and talk with you. Have a great one, everyone, and we will see everyone in the next holiday stream, which is also, I think, going to be the last. See you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Both, Juhani.
Ciao.